Are the religious mystic and the true scientist two sides of the same coin? Do the dogmatic individuals of both religious and scientific domains blind us to their similarities? If so, what does this mean about human nature, and what are its implications on society? You're watching Archetypal Wisdom. Join me in exploring the universal truths and mysteries of humankind. Remember to like and subscribe. Now, back to the video. I've always found the human psyche a fascinating place, and ever since I can remember I've been curious about human behavior. One phenomenon that has always caught my attention was the tension between religion and science. Throughout my life I found myself drawn to both, and I have great respect for both. Whenever I have had conversations with religious people, I have been able to enjoy a great and deep conversation about the meaning of life. Yet whenever I have had a conversation with scientific individuals, I have had fascinating and insightful conversations about how the world works. Yet what has always been noticeable is the obvious tension between these two schools of thought. There will be disparaging comments on both sides about what the other doesn't understand. What intrigues me about this isn't so much what they believe to be true, but rather the psychological patterns of both sides, which seem to mirror each other. What often unites them from my experience is certainty. This certainty can be considered a form of dogma. Dogma, in essence, is the belief in something that is thought to be irrefutably true. This concept is commonly attributed to religion, and for good reason. This dogmatic perspective has been historically prominent within religious communities. For example, we see this in the Inquisition during the Middle Ages, when the Catholic Church tried to combat heresy and maintain religious orthodoxy, becoming infamous for their brutality against those who deviated from the standard credence. Yet there has been an abundance of this dogmatic psychology in the scientific community also. To give a historic example, in 1912 there was great resistance to the theory of continental drift, suggesting that continents moved across the Earth's surface over time. The dominant geological theory at the time was fixism, which held that continents and oceans were fixed in their positions. The majority of the community held to this earlier paradigm, and instead of exploring this new idea, the theory was ridiculed and dismissed for another 50 years before it was eventually accepted. There are, of course, plenty of individuals in both the scientific and religious communities who are open-minded and not dogmatic. While I am aware that I'm generalizing here, I'm curious about the overarching patterns that emerge, and dogma has always been present in both domains. I find this mirroring of dogmatic thought on both sides fascinating. In fact, they seem to be each other's twin in a curious way. The religious side stating what is irrefutably true, and the scientific side stating what is irrefutably untrue. This mirroring can in part be explained by psychological compensation, a concept put forth by Carl Jung. He noted that individuals would frequently go to great lengths to compensate for that which they couldn't accept within themselves. This, however, doesn't just play out on the individual level, but also the collective level. Considering this, the two domains of science and religion could be unconsciously compensating for each other. One that compels rigorous examination and investigation of how things work, and the other that requires great faith and contemplation on existential meaning. The natural function of psychological compensation is to find balance and equilibrium. Therefore, the stronger the divide, the more intense the compensation. This implies that perhaps there are elements in both science and religion needed for individuals to thrive. What I find so remarkable about this is just how influenced we all are by our psychology. When you step back far enough and observe the behavior of individuals and groups, what's plain to see is recurring behavioral patterns. The specifics of what individuals claim actually tells you less about what they really believe than their behavioral patterns. As stated earlier, a recurring behavioral pattern that seems to emerge in both domains of science and religion is certainty. What I find tragic about this behavioral pattern that emerges in both is how frequently it causes them to become shut down. However, the dogmatic certainty also makes sense on a basic psychological level. This is because in order to move confidently through the world, an individual must understand the world. This understanding serves as a roadmap of sorts and gives the person a sense of direction. This is essential in order for us to function, and so to challenge this in any significant way is deeply disorienting to people. They suddenly don't know up from down, and so will cling to what they know in order to maintain internal order, even if what disrupts their worldview is true. This is why self-awareness is so critical. It allows you to become aware of your own blind spots. It exposes why you are drawn to certain perspectives, and this awareness makes the process of developing and the seasonal updates of your worldview far less traumatic. Personally, I want to keep learning about the world around me and what can be deduced scientifically, and I want to keep understanding the depths of our being and the more mysterious aspects of our existence. In fact, when I venture into the spiritual and religious realms, I'm fascinated by those who are most open-minded. I learn the most from them. Their faith takes on a type of authenticity and individual journey that is undeniable. A good example of this is Richard Rohr, who was a Christian mystic. I found his holistic and open nature deeply compelling. He has been able to take his foundation of belief and explore the world beyond that in an honest and deep manner. His personal experiences of the divine and the interwoven experiences of mysticism he has connected across the world had a significant effect on me. Yet unsurprisingly, his expansive perspective has received pushback from the more dogmatic Christians. What's remarkable to me about extraordinarily open religious individuals such as Richard is their ability to expand beyond established understanding and to inspire those around them. They don't seem shut down by what the foundation of their belief is, but they actually want to understand the divine firsthand. This is usually very disturbing to the dogmatic individuals of the religion, but powerfully inspiring to others. It seems that the reason this is so powerful within the collective is because people feel a proximity experience of the divine in the presence of the religious mystic. However, what often occurs among those inspired by the mystic is that they cling to the mystic instead of the divine source the mystic speaks to. In their blind following, the people who have been inspired will then often become dogmatic in their approach in the hopes that it will allow them to feel the divine again. This ironically prevents them from having their own profound experience of the divine and perpetuates a cycle of dogma. On the other hand, you have the great figures in science who have actually made profound breakthroughs in our understanding of the world. A great example being Einstein. He wasn't afraid to be deeply creative and imaginative in his scientific explorations. In fact, when he first introduced his theory of relativity, it was met with plenty of resistance, as it challenged the established Newtonian understanding of mechanics. These revolutionary scientists seem to adopt a similar trait to the mystic of sincere exploration, however of the physical realm. They are not bound by what they already know. They allow themselves to imagine, they genuinely explore the great unknown and try to make sense of it. Then a tremendous discovery is made, and once it is accepted by the scientific community, usually after much resistance, they cling to the discovery and build a worldview around it. Both communities of science and religion follow this pattern, which seems to be cyclical. It's ironic that those who adopt this dogmatism on both sides are the ones most overtly arguing with each other. Yet the open, explorative types of the mystic and true scientist, who are the ones who contribute the most to both domains, aren't arguing amongst themselves but truly exploring. Everything that the dogmatic types cling to, be that on the scientific or religious end of the spectrum, was born out of the true explorers before them. Perhaps this is just the way we are wired. Perhaps there can only be a small collection of these courageous pioneers who expand our knowledge and understanding, and then the collective over time integrates it until it is ready to be updated again. But I dream of a world where this genuine pioneering spirit can be integrated into the collective. A world in which we are all explorers, confident enough in what we know to move forward, but always open to learning more. The seeming divide between religion and science appears to be a psychological one. I can't help but imagine that if the true religious mystic and the true scientist sat down together, they would most probably have an exciting and fruitful conversation. They would probably inspire each other and find many correlations and crossovers. It appears it is the psychological defense mechanism of dogmatic certainty that divides us, rather than the domains they belong to. You've been watching Archetypal Wisdom. Remember to like and subscribe. Stay wise.